You feel a stronger need to protect your time instead of filling it with distractions. You begin questioning routines that no longer feel aligned with who you are becoming. You become more aware of how certain people affect your emotional state. You feel calmer making decisions without asking for reassurance or approval from others. You notice a growing desire for structure and order in your daily life, not for control, but for clarity. You stop feeling obligated to stay in conversations that drain you or leave you mentally exhausted. You feel less reactive when things do not go according to plan and recover faster emotionally. You become more selective about what deserves your attention, energy, and emotional investment. You feel uncomfortable with habits that keep you stagnant, even if they once felt safe or familiar. You notice your patience increasing in situations that previously triggered stress or urgency. You feel a natural pull toward clarity rather than chaos in how you think, plan, and communicate. You stop explaining your choices to people who consistently dismiss or undermine them. You begin valuing rest as part of progress rather than seeing it as lost time. You notice emotional distance from drama that once pulled you in or demanded constant reaction. You feel more grounded and mentally steady when spending time alone. You start prioritizing consistency over intensity in habits, goals, and personal growth. You become aware of patterns in your own behavior instead of blaming circumstances or people. You feel less pressure to impress others or perform a version of yourself for approval. You stop chasing validation through constant productivity or visible busyness. You feel an urge to simplify your goals so they feel sustainable rather than overwhelming. You become more honest with yourself about what you want, even when it contradicts past plans. You notice stronger boundaries forming naturally without guilt or over-explanation. You feel clearer about what no longer fits your life, values, or direction. You begin listening more carefully before responding, instead of rushing to react. You feel less tempted to revisit old emotional wounds that no longer shape who you are. You stop romanticizing situations that repeatedly drained your energy or self-respect. You feel stable even when external circumstances change unexpectedly. You become intentional with how you spend your mental energy throughout the day. You feel more comfortable saying no without justification or apology. You notice discipline slowly replacing motivation as your main source of momentum. You feel less attached to proving your worth through outcomes or recognition. You begin choosing depth over surface-level connections and conversations. You stop forcing outcomes that feel rushed, pressured, or emotionally misaligned. You feel a stronger sense of internal direction guiding your choices. You become less influenced by other people's opinions when making personal decisions. You notice emotional triggers losing their intensity and control over you. You stop measuring progress through comparison with others. You become more aware of what drains your focus and subtly limits your growth. You feel aligned with slow and steady improvement rather than dramatic change. You start trusting your instincts more consistently in daily decisions. You feel less urgency to fix other people's problems or emotional states. You notice confidence showing up quietly rather than loudly or performatively. You become more present during ordinary moments instead of constantly thinking ahead. You feel clarity after letting go of expectations that were never yours to carry. You stop clinging to familiar discomfort simply because it feels known. You feel more in control of your reactions, even in emotionally charged situations. You begin valuing long-term peace over short-term excitement. You notice your environment subtly reflecting your inner changes and priorities. You feel calmer making choices without immediate visible results. You stop revisiting situations that already taught their lesson. You feel emotionally lighter after setting boundaries and honoring them. You become intentional with what you allow into your life emotionally and mentally. You feel secure even without clear guarantees about outcomes. You notice emotional maturity shaping your decisions more than impulse. You stop tolerating behavior that conflicts with your values or self-respect. You feel grounded and steady when spending time in silence. You begin recognizing growth without needing acknowledgement from others. You feel less pressure to maintain old identities that no longer reflect who you are. You stop negotiating your self-respect for comfort or familiarity. You notice clarity replacing confusion in how you think about your future. You feel comfortable moving at your own pace without rushing progress. You become more mindful of daily habits and their long-term impact. You feel steady during periods of uncertainty rather than panicked. You start choosing peace instinctively instead of forcing yourself to endure chaos. You notice emotional independence forming in how you relate to others. You feel calm even when outcomes remain unknown. You stop waiting for perfect timing and act when alignment feels right. You become aware of how your energy shifts around different people. You feel aligned with your personal values in daily choices. You notice restraint replacing impulsive behavior. You feel less drawn to external noise, opinions, and constant input. You stop revisiting old narratives about yourself that no longer apply. You feel secure making long-term plans quietly without broadcasting them. You notice patience replacing anxiety in how you approach goals. You feel clarity when simplifying responsibilities and commitments. You begin trusting the process without constant reassurance. You feel emotionally stable during periods of change. You stop over-identifying with past mistakes or versions of yourself. You notice a stronger sense of self-trust forming through action. You feel intentional with how you speak and express yourself. You stop forcing connections that feel one-sided or draining. You feel more aware of your emotional limits and respect them. You notice calm replacing urgency as your default state. You feel less pressure to rush progress or outcomes. You become selective with what you commit to long-term. You feel present in your body more often, instead of living in your head. You notice inner stability becoming your baseline, rather than emotional swings. You feel detached from unnecessary expectations placed on you. You stop romanticizing struggle as a requirement for growth. You feel secure evolving at your own pace without comparison. You notice emotional clarity strengthening over time. You feel grounded when making difficult but necessary choices. You stop seeking constant external validation for your direction. You feel aligned with quiet confidence rather than loud certainty. You notice discipline shaping your lifestyle naturally. You feel calm setting expectations for others. You begin valuing substance over appearance in people and situations. You feel comfortable outgrowing old environments. You notice long-term vision guiding daily actions. You feel emotionally prepared for change rather than resistant to it. You stop clinging to outcomes outside your control. You feel clarity when releasing emotional clutter. You notice self-trust deepening through consistent action. You feel less influenced by social pressure. You stop revisiting what no longer serves you. You feel grounded during personal transitions. You notice alignment replacing internal resistance. You feel secure even when life feels uncertain. You move forward with quiet certainty rather than urgency. You trust your internal direction without needing external confirmation.